If you've just joined us, you're watching Newslink on DSTV channel 403. Now, AmaZulu King Misuzulu KaZwelithini will receive a certificate of recognition from the country's president. His ascension to the throne hasn't been without drama, including court battles. Organisers of the event are expecting a full house at Moses Mabhida Stadium this Saturday. Let's talk more about this with Prince Zuzifa Buthelezi. He's the deputy chairperson of the Royal Coronation Committee. Prince, good morning and thank you very much for your time. I'm sure as a member of that committee and family member, having weathered the storms, it must be quite surreal to be days away from the coronation. There's a lot that has happened.
Good morning, Fundo, and good morning to the viewers. It is indeed very much surreal, as you said, because it has been a very difficult, long journey, torturous at times. But we all know that they say that these contestations, whether one likes it or not, have really become part and parcel of, especially in the royalty, even in the Zulu monarchy, in the Zulu house. We have had historically a lot of contestations like this. So somehow it has become something that comes with the territory. But again, to reaffirm what you've just said, Fundo, it is really very, very fulfilling that we finally have reached this stage to what as much as most of the family, the royal family believes, has been a very smooth transition to ushering us towards the new King Misuzulu KaZwelithini. Yeah.
I want to take you back a bit to where South Africans were given some sort of a sense of the conflict within the house. I mean, it was at that time, at the reading of the will, just after the Queen Manvombi had passed on. I mean, on that day, we had live coverage. At the time, we had the prince. The prince had to be escorted out. It was a very volatile time within just the kingdom. Just talk to us about the emotions around that period.
I must say it was very painful because it's very difficult to have to deal with just having lost our king and having lost our queen in very close succession. And then when you think you would really prefer that things then just move smoothly into the way they should be going in that direction. But that was a very difficult time, as I just said, dealing with that and also dealing with all this volatility because it was very volatile. And I mean, there were all sorts of hats being thrown in the ring, people, claiming that they are the king, they should be the next king. And yet, I mean, as a Zulu nation and maybe other kingdoms like this, it is very clear, you do not elect a king, the king is born. And it was very clear from our understanding, from the will that was read, that the indication, the finger-pointed family at who is now the incumbent King Misuzulu. Well, people have their own other arguments. That is what we've always known. And I think it is now on record because this has been playing out also in the courts, that as far as the Zulu nation is concerned, at least I will talk for the Zulu nation, that if once the wife or the bride at the time is paid dowry or ilobolo is paid by the nation, that person becomes the chief wife, which is exactly what happened with Queen Manvombi from Swaziland. It was paid by the nation and also comes from a royal family. So it was very clear. But all these things, as the nation will know, up to this day, they are still playing out. But we are very pleased that we've reached this chapter now on Saturday.
You know, I was just speaking to a professor now, Professor Ngubane. It seems it was clear to scholars, historians, and a faction of the royal family that Misuzulu was to ascend. And it's unfortunate that we talk of factions when we speak of the royal house, but clearly it's a phenomena in South Africa and the world over. There's always some sort of faction. But the other faction, would you now reduce this to some sort of mischief or what on their part? Because many of you that come on to speak to the media say it's always been clear. It has always been clear history, even the academics, as they say, that if you have the queen from the royal family, such as Manvombi, it would have been the case that the heir would have come from her house.
Mfundo, I think that when people lay claim to anything, in particular talking about, as I said, throwing heads in the ring, if all they need is for themselves to believe that that is what is the case, And then, I mean, you know, I'm not, what is that? They will push the line because they've got their own. If you say where it came from, it could be mischief, it could be power mongering, you know, it could be ambition, whatever you call it. But those people always project the image that they have got compelling reasons to be the rightful people to go there. And of course, by and large, they are seen as pretenders to the throne. But it comes from all sorts of different, you hear different, ideas as to why that happens. But contestations, as you say, it is really always in the eye of the person who believes that it is their own motivation that informs their action to say they're the rightful one. So it could be anything. It's a mixed bag. It could be mischief. It could be power mongering, as I've just explained. Because even now we know that it's still going on. And as you said, it is very sad that we're still talking about factions, but also having said before that contestation has become part and parcel of this journey.
Mm-hmm. But, you know, many say that in moments of strife or any misfortune or difficulty, there's something to learn. Has there been something learned from this around managing succession or conflict resolution within the royal family to ensure that it never finds itself playing out in courts?
Mfundo, I doubt very much that this will ever end, because it's not a question of an era. It's a question of people's ambition. So it's in the person to say, I'm going for this at any given time. There are lessons learned. I think you can churn out a lot of history and where it comes from. But I really believe that there are people who will always, project that they are the rightful person. There are, of course, always lessons learned. And I think what is good at the moment is that the King, His Majesty Misuzulu, has now more and more been heard, stood up publicly to say that he wants to unite the family, he wants to unite the nation, and he's invited the people who were claiming that to say they must come back home. So really, if there's anything to be learned, is just to know that it comes with the territory, and I don't think you can ever learn, because it takes different forms at different times.
Your father...
so we're excited about Saturday.
Mm-hmm. And then your father, Prince Buthelezi, he's been lauded.
Sorry, go ahead.
Apologies there. He's been lauded for his role throughout this whole difficult process. As a son, what do you make of your father's role in ensuring that you find yourselves in this position where this Saturday there will be a coronation?
I think it has been also quite a journey for my father, because as long as I can remember, when I was young, he was, as is well known now, he was appointed by the current king's grandfather, King Cyprian, to be the prime minister. And of course, we can talk on and on about how far back that goes in terms of the Buthelezi family. So, but coming to him, he was appointed by King Cyprian, and then of course, when King Cyprian passed away, he was, the king. His son, King KaZwelithini, also continued to make him play this role. But I think he is on record as about his passion and about his belief in the Zulu nation, so much so that we will recall very clearly, I think those of us who were around, but also there's history there to follow that even during the new dispensation in South Africa, he stood up very firmly in saying there has got to be a place for the monarch and the monarchy. And I think really, that is on record, and he was steadfast. And it has been said that the father to the current king, King Zwelithini, there are people who can attest to that, even to this day, that they were actually amazed when he said that he wishes that he could pass away before my father as his prime minister, so that he can sort out so many things in the royal house. So really, he does this not for fun. I think it's something that he believes in very, very strongly. I mean, we just have to cast your eye back to when the new dispensation happened, how much he has, up to this day, he has really believed very much in that, the unity of the Zulu nation. And this is a nation with a very, very deep history. And some of his his great-great-grandfather was a general at the Battle of Isanjwana, where the British were defeated. So really, there is very, very deep roots as far as the royal family is concerned. is something he believes in very, very passionately. And he says he will actually stand very firmly for this until the end of his days.
Just to be mischievous a bit, should the conversation around a successor for Prime Minister happen, would you be willing to stand if asked?
Well, really, you are really, that is what you call an ambush question, Mfundo. But I will try and answer it. I will try and answer it the best way I can, because it's very unfortunate that, but that will always happen, that people will always speculate about your ambitions and your objectives. And without having consulted with you, they will even measure you against those objectives which they themselves have set. But as far as this is concerned, I always make clear, because it's not the first time this question comes up. And I say to people, you know, when they see me being close to my father all the time these days, it's because I'm just doing what any normal son would do. I'm just looking after my father, especially at this age, because he's also, looked after me until I've become a man. And I really wish I could be half the man that he is in all aspects. I'm not talking about politics or royalty, but in all aspects of being a father. So really, as far as that is concerned, I've made it very clear, Mfundo, if I answer that mischief of yours, to say, first and foremost, being around my father all the time is really to do the least that a son can do. I'm just looking after my father at his age now, strong as he still is, but also I have really no aspirations right now of being a prime minister. People can speculate until cows come home, but also that will not deter me or defocus me in just looking after my father. That's really, when they see me everywhere with him, that is all that I'm doing. But as far as this is concerned, this ambition, anyway, you get appointed by the king. Well, some people have said that he's grooming me, which we find very amusing. They say he's, you will not believe, Mfundo, that not once, and I swear not once, have my father and myself engaged in or speculated about this possible takeover of the. I will always serve the king in any capacity, that I can assure you of. But the thing of this prime minister, people must just really take it easy, because I'm not trying to pursue any ambition. It will be the king's call anyway. And he should know he is who he will want to see as his prime minister.
Prince Buthelezi, thank you very much for your indulgence.
I hope. Thank you so much, Mfundo, and thanks for your time as well.
Lovely. That's the Deputy Chairperson of the Royal Coronation Committee, Prince Zuzifa Buthelezi.